Hey guys, while I got these junk valves and springs and all that out of them to the closed chamber cast heads, I just want to point out just some standard stuff compared to your performance stuff that you'll do if you're, upping the combination a little and trying to get a bit more horsepower. So basically the standard valves in the Cleveland are a triple groove style valve, and that just means all those grooves there that actually go inside your triple groove collets or locks, what I call. And this is basically standard stuff. Yeah, most of you guys that are watching would know all this stuff, but for those that don't, these are your locks, right? So you got them there, and basically on a standard Cleveland, they're a 7-degree lock, which is a 7-degree taper, and they're a triple groove. So basically, if you're keeping things stock, or say a fairly stock to mildish rebuild, anything up to about 350-ish horsepower, you could still keep this type of gear, the standard triple groove valves and the collets, the locks, and up to about 5,500 RPM, I'd say. But if you're going to do a decent rebuild and change the cam and spring pressures to suit that new cam and things like that, and if you're pushing it up to around 6,000 plus type of RPM, I would actually upgrade while you're doing the heads, servicing the heads and things like that. I'll go for a single groove valve, which consists of one square groove in there, and I'll just explain that a little. Yeah, so basically, because the grooves are narrow and close to each other, once you up the ante on that cam and you get tougher spring pressures to suit, they just simply can't take that load, and especially with high RPMs. So the last thing you want to do is shear all that or break that and drop a valve, and that's just a not a good thing to happen. So you would think like three of these seem to be stronger or tougher. That's how I used to look at things when I was real young. But no, a single groove valve is way stronger than this stuff. So there's 4 items basically here. Obviously your valve spring, we'll pop that in there. Your retainer, which would have the matching angle to what your locks are. So we'll pop the retainer there. And then you'll have your standard 7-degree locks that are there. I'll just assemble this quickly for you. And that just stays like that. And then push up on your retainer, your spring goes in there, and voila. And that's how your valves are held open and shut. And that there takes all those stresses. So a factory triple groove is, a stock to a very, very mildish hydraulic cam type of setup, up to about 5,500 RPMs, around 350-ish horsepower, I'd say. And then once you step up your combination, say solid cam and things like that, 6,000 or 6,000 plus RPMs, what have you, 400 plus horsepower, I would upgrade. You're going to do your heads anyway. I would upgrade to a better quality valve, a single groove valve, and you can get replacement retainers and locks. You can still leave it at 7 degrees, but you can get a single lock groove, valves and locks. And if you really go a little bit more serious in the combination, you can go a 10 degree, and that just the degree just gets wider and wider and gives it a real flared out funnel shape, and that way it just grabs onto that valve much better than a more shallower angle. And you can get single groove 10-degree locks, you can get a single groove 7-degree lock. But yeah, that standard stuff is pretty much good for nothing except standard or anything up to about 350 horsepower, I'd say. Yeah, so basically its function is to hold all this gear up, together. And if I'm trying to pull up on that, I can't because the lock and retainer has locked into the grooves. And I'll just show you a better understanding. We'll pop that spring down there, and that's it there. And if I try, obviously I'm not 500 because it's wedged in. And like I said, it's like a funnel shape, a 7-degree, and it's all locked in. The retainer's keeping it there, and that's, what keeps it all together. And like I said, if you go a single groove and spread out the angle to a 10-degree, it just becomes stronger for a better, more high horsepower, high RPM combination. Yeah, like for those that are beginning and wanting to know things, you're probably asking yourself, how could one single groove be stronger than 3 individual grooves like this? But you got to ask yourself, they're 3 thin and narrow grooves that are next to each other. There's not much material there, shallow and whatnot, and they're easier to shear off at high horsepower and load applications. It's very similar, just if I'm not sure if you would know this, but just like blower kits, often when you're setting up a supercharger kit, you're asked to machine an extra groove into the crank snout for an extra keyway, and that's just to hold all that extra load that you're turning, because it's no more naturally aspirated. You need to turn an extra pump that's up top. So you know what I mean. If you got your balancer and you got your normal keyway, you're often told to machine, get another little slot machine there just to hold all the load, because you're trying to turn your blower and that. But imagine trying to do a keyway that's got 3 narrow keyways like that all next to each other. That's not going to hold the load. There's not enough material there. They're all next to each other. It's just going to shear off. So it reminds me of this stuff, very similar if you look at it in that way. Yeah, so basically your locks are at a 7-degree, funnel shape there. And that's just from 90 degrees, just picture 90. So imagine, that's 90 degrees and there as well. So basically 7 degrees out, that's standard with, triple grooves locking into your valve stem. And now when you go, say, a 10 degree funnels out, say that way. And if you put in one fat groove in there, it takes the load way better than these little tiny, thin grooves that are next to each other that can shear off at massive spring rate pressures and high horsepower, high RPM applications, if that makes sense. So again, pretty simple. You got your valve, and if you picture 90 degrees back to back, so you got your stock 7 degree, and then you got your upgraded single groove 10 degree, just a wider flare job, and obviously way harder to try and yank that thing out. So there you go, guys. Like I said, while I had this junk gear all out, I thought I'll knock up a video about it all. And obviously if you're going to step up your combination, you'll want to upgrade your valve spring to suit your new cam. And while you're at it, like I said, you might as well upgrade to a new valve, to a single groove valve, say, and you can still keep it 7 degrees as far as your retainer and locks, single groove, I'd say. And this stuff here, this standard triple groove stuff, I would rate it at no more than 350-ish horsepower. You can keep it 7 degrees and go single groove, and let's just say that's good for 450, 500-ish horsepower, or just step it right up to 10 degrees and you'll get your 10-degree retainer, 10-degree locks, you know, your single groove valves to suit, and you know that stuff's good for 500, 550, 600 onwards, you know what I mean, horsepower. And you know, you're upgrading all the material there. You know, you can get hardened steel or chromoly retainers locks, you know, you can get titanium retainers, you know, and that's the way I would go. You know, there's nothing more badass than going good gear in your valve train, and it's the only way if you ask me. Not only it's stronger, it's lighter also, which means it's better.